So it's 4:15, and we'll call the meeting to order. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Watson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Approval of the last meeting minutes. Any motion? Watson, Harrison, all those in favor?
Aye.
New business, legislative update.
So there's been some activity in Lansing coming into the fall on a couple of important fronts for us. A package of sustainability and energy bills has been introduced. It's all being run through Sam Singh's office in the Senate. We have been engaged and have provided feedback to the Senator's office, which they received and actually digested, which I appreciated. My presumption is these bills will probably get worse rather than get better as the negotiations continue, but there's some really good stuff in there. Statewide carbon neutrality by 2040, which is important right now, at least, unless Aaron has an update for us. But right now, at least, there's a community solar program aimed at low and moderate income households in the legislation, which would be wonderful. Increasing the distributed generation cap, which is important. We'd like it to be increased more, but you never know. And a slew of other things, but those are kind of the notable things that hit in our legislative agenda. So there's a lot to like in the bill. We sent a letter to our delegation and the leadership saying, please do support it. I know there was some discussion at our legislative breakfast about how people would come out. Missy and I read it. We really like what's in there. We asked people to support it and provided some detailed comments back to Senator Singh. So that's all good. I believe the intention is to have these bills passed this fall. So they're moving.
What's that?
Yeah. There is also a package of bills around polluter pays, 11 separate bills actually, covering a wide range of topics. We're digesting these bills now. They have been introduced. Action is probably not going to be taken until, actually they have not been introduced. They will be introduced this fall. Action is likely to be taken in the spring, however, so we have some time to digest that. Well,
Hopefully the majority.
yeah, right. There, I think the intention is to introduce them now, work on them until the Democrats get the majority back, which should happen sometime beginning of March into February, and then hopefully pass polluter pays. They keep kicking the can down the road on polluter pays, though. Every time I talk to somebody in Lansing, they're like, oh, well, we're going to do it before the session's over, but it's going to be 3 months later than we originally told you. So we'll see what we get. But it's a fairly comprehensive set of bills. We're working through it. We'll be providing our feedback. Good news for us, our very own Senator Irwin is running herd on that legislation in the Senate. So we have a sympathetic and engaged ear on our side on that one. Another proposal that's really gaining steam is the split rate taxation proposal from Mayor Duggan. That's an important one for us. That's in our policy agenda. And so we're following that closely. I haven't seen draft bills yet, but we're generally supportive of the topic. So
That's the land value.
that's the land value tax, yes, which was also written about in the spat of articles that were in MLive last week on housing. I think, Councilmember Adina, you were quoted talking about it. I can't remember who. Somebody was quoted talking about it and how important it was for the city.
Not me. Jen, maybe it was
Not
Jen.
maybe something. Maybe it was an old club.
Yeah, it could be. That does happen. You
Were
never
you like,
know.
I predated Duggan's dream, Fran Arbor?
Yeah. I will say it was convenient being up in Mackinac, having that proposal come out and being like, hey, Ann Arbor endorsed this like 8 months ago. Let us know what we can do to be helpful. So, we're interested in those. So obviously those are 3 really heavy hitter portions of our policy agenda that are moving forward, and we're engaged on all of them. So.
Representative Rengans introduced rent control.
That has been introduced for some time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there seems to be something that's being worked on because I know Representative Wilson has also reached out to me about rent control recently.
negotiations happening on that one,
Okay.
and we're just gonna have to wait and see where they fall out.
Right.
So, our bill on local speed limits, that made it out of committee on the House floor. But we'll get to talk about our Lansing visit, but as part of our Lansing visit, we met with Senator Sarah Anthony's staff. And Senator Anthony has an identical bill on the Senate side. And we had a very good discussion with her staff, gave them some feedback on it. I anticipate that bill will run on the Senate side, and, hopefully we can marry the two bills up and get the thing passed. I expressed to them that we have gotten this bill to the finish line for the last two sessions, and it's died in the lame duck, and that it would just be really great if we could finally get it done this time.
Yeah.
So they were sympathetic. They said, okay, we'll try to make it happen this time. So we were appreciative.
Who's there?
The budget director and her legislative director, whose names escape me at the moment, but I have them.
On distributed generation,
Yeah.
My understanding is there may be some tweaks that labor might be looking for, because there are concerns around kind of the just transition. With a lot of renewable energy stuff,
Yeah.
there's getting left out. So we don't want to be in a position where, policy-wise, I don't think we want to be in a position where we're making it so that green energy and labor are in conflict. We need to bring them along. So,
Right.
So just heads up on that as you're looking at that package and saying it might get tweaked.
Yeah.
That's something that I've heard recently.
Very good. Any other questions, thoughts at this point? No. All right. So as I mentioned, we were up in Lansing last week. The mayor, Councilmember Iyer, myself, and Milton had some meetings. Very good meeting with Eagle on their discharge permit for the wastewater treatment plant. As you're writing notes, Eileen, you tell Tim. I've already caught him in the hallway and pulled on his sleeve and said, I owe you an email with my follow-ups from him.
I told him this morning as well, to Jay's email.
Yeah, and I owe Brian an email too. But the good news is there's a number of different permits here at play. The main permit is called an NPDES permit, which is National Pollutants Discharge.
Yes, discharge.
Yeah, it's a permit that's actually a federal permit that devolves to Eagle because we have such a environmental operation at the state level. Kind of redundant, but you know what I'm trying to say. That allows Eagle to have controls over what wastewater treatment plant is discharging into the Huron River. But they have limits under the Clean Water Act for what they can and cannot do. We had a good discussion with the staff at Eagle about what those limits are. I think, they obviously don't do advocacy or lobbying. They're barred from doing that. But as I walked out of that meeting, I thought to myself, these are some good opportunities for us to have discussions with our federal lobbyists about how we can improve the Clean Water Act to, control that discharge a little better. But there are other permits that Eagle has at their disposal that historically they've been shy about using. One is called the IPP, which is the Industrial Pollutants Permit, which actually is a local permit that Eagle has some control over, and it allows local wastewater treatment plant authorities to control the industrial pollutants that are discharged into the wastewater streams. Eagle has leaned on Wixom to seriously strengthen their IPP with Tribar, and they've rolled through some of the details on how that permit has gotten much more intense in the last few years, especially in the last year since the hexavalent chromium spill. And so I was pleased to learn about that. And there are also local permits that are simply their sewage interconnection permits that wastewater treatment plants can lean on to control operations at dischargers of the sewage system. And so Eagle has essentially forced Wixom to get much more serious about using that permitting power to control what Tribar is discharging into the wastewater streams. And, there are more intense testing regimes coming out of the Tribar plant. They've installed a SCADA system, which is a type of constant monitoring system for the types of chemicals that are coming out of the plant. There are new physical separations between the was with hexavalent chromium. So it was a very good conversation. We were very pleased about it. You know, I'd like Eagle to be doing more still, but I think we're in a much better position with them than we had originally anticipated. A lot of what they have done are things that we advocated that they do last year, and they were very skittish about it last year. But in the intervening year, we've done a lot of, you know, without going into too many details, we've done a lot of good political work in the last year to try to put pressure on Eagle to take action, and I think that's been very effective. We also met with the budget staffs on the House and Senate Appropriations Committees, talked about the city's priorities for hopefully for a fall supplemental budget, including you know, funding for the election center, funding for a new fire station, and funding for an emergency operations center. There are limited funding opportunities in a fall supplemental. You know, it remains to be seen whether there's going to be a general fund budget fall supplemental. So we wanted to kind of have our fall asks be aligned with those kind of core service delivery items. I think they've got a higher chance. We let them all know, though, that coming into the spring, we'll have a more expansive list, so they shouldn't think that this is the complete list of our asks. We'll be a little more ambitious in the fall budget. Those meetings all went very well. Questions or feedback on that?
I guess we should just repeat all of the asks as often as possible as we see reps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, do we have a PDF version of our policy agenda that you can reshare with me?
Sure can.
Because I just have the Word doc.
It is on Legistar. I can send you the link.
Thank you.
Last but not least, the legislative breakfast went swimmingly well. You know, the first one we did was, you know, us talking at our delegation from a podium, which was effective. It was our first one. We had a fairly expansive agenda. I think it was good to set the table in that way. This time it was much more of a conversation, roundtable, a lot of very good dialogue about, you know, what's coming, where there are opportunities for improvement. I think our delegation members really enjoyed it. Every member of the delegation came, which was great. And it was just a very, very good conversation. I think they all really enjoyed it. So we got positive feedback from them. Yeah. So I think moving forward for the rest of the year, we're looking for opportunities to influence the major legislation we have up, and we're going to continue banging down doors in Lansing for a fall supplemental.
Okay. Any more questions for John?
Well, get that money, John.
We're trying. I want that shutter, man.
All right, with no other questions, I don't see any unfinished business, so any information for upcoming business. All right. Do we have any public comment?
Use the raise hand feature or *9.
Just a second here. All right. Seeing none.
You don't want to wait longer?
There's no delay.
There's no delay, okay.
Yeah. Seeing no public comment, then we can move to adjourn.
I'll move.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah, it's really feeding and feeding.